All right, it's 6 o'clock. Call the Finance Committee meeting to order. The topic of the agenda tonight is safe streets and roads for all grant application. Jacob?
You have the information that Dave had sent out for you on the budget and all of that. And so for those of you that were able to look at the notice of funding opportunity and kind of read through it a little bit, what we would be applying for would be to develop a safety action plan, which by their definition is something that we don't have. And so therefore we're ineligible to go for their implementation funding, which if you look through there, there's a lot of money out there to do some significant projects. And so not only would we be able to use this study to identify a lot of our trouble spots in town and get, a good head start on some of them in one fell swoop rather than just doing each one individually as they come up and are a problem. We can do a bunch of them at once. And it opens up the opportunity for us after we finish this going into next year and other future funding rounds of this, that we could apply for implementation funding and do 80-20 grants for bigger infrastructure projects. I think the limits of the planning grant program, I think the lowest application you could submit for was like $100,000 or $150,000. And for the implementation grants, the lowest number that you can apply for is about 2.5 million, which means you're looking at, at minimum a $3-ish million project with the implementation funding. But to get there, we have to do the application. It's a little short notice because we're intending to bring this forward and apply for the round in August. But because you can apply, and then if you're not awarded, you can reapply before the rounds run out, we thought we would maybe take the opportunity to get in this first round, see if we can get it, and if not, get some feedback, improve our application, and go for it in the final round for this year. And either way, whether we are awarded, in this May round, the application is due May 16th. Whether we're awarded in May or we're awarded through the August round, we'd be able to budget for it for next year, because this will be we'll submit the application on May 16th, but it'll be a several-month process before we know if we're awarded. And then at that point, if we know that we're awarded, it'll take at least 30 to 60 days for the federal government to process all of those things, release the funds to us, and then we have to go through all of the bidding, which will take another 30 to 60 days. And so even with going with the earlier application, you'll be able to, if awarded, budget for it in next year's budget and kind of plan things out. So the only thing that we would be asking tonight is a resolution saying that if we were awarded the $192,000 of the grant, then we would commit $48,000 of our own money to budget for next year to put our skin in the game on the project. So that's the opportunity that we have tonight. Sorry that's a little late notice, but we thought it was better to maybe attack this earlier round and have two bites of the apple if we needed it. So happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
One of the things I wondered, Jacob, and honestly, I went through that 30-some pages and kind of just read the highlighted stuff, hoping that that was our clue to what to read and what we could skim over. But looking at the different intersections on your map, would this limit the application to these areas? Or, I mean, let's say, for instance, would this improve our ability to reapply for, like, Erie Avenue?
I think that it could. I think that we would probably want to focus on the areas that are not currently engineered that might have some issues. So we already have progress, and that's something that we can show, in that plan that, okay, the next step that we have to look at is maybe down there by the 18th Street section that wasn't part of the design that we've already done.
Just outside of.
So, yeah, for the purposes of the application, we want to highlight the weirdest, most troubling intersections that we have, where you have the most accidents and the most, possibility of, fatalities, unfortunately, and things of that nature. But it doesn't limit us. Once we go out for bid and do that stuff, we'll be able to work with the consultant to really target where we're going to do. Because $240,000 isn't going to do every single one in town, but we think it can do quite a few of them. Yeah.
So is it safe to say then, like, the areas that you've picked were based on some data that we already have?
Yeah, I mean, some of them, I I didn't print that one out, but some of them are, based on things that we know have happened recently that we think are going to, potentially cause traffic issues. So, things like the Race Street and 6th Street intersection with the development we're hoping to happen down there and with the event center already coming in, that might be an issue that doesn't currently exist. Same thing with Michigan Avenue and Chase Road. And then some of the others are, places that the public has asked us to look at, so that George Street and 24th, not 24th, the George Street and Market intersection there, that's kind of weird with the median. We've had some of the business owners and residents of those apartments reach out to us in the past about doing something there because there's a lot of cut through of the businesses. So that's an area that, doesn't necessarily have a ton of data behind it, but there's a lot of colloquial, requests for us to look at it, and this would give us a little bit of a head start on that one. So there's a little bit of everything that went into those intersections. We worked with Aaron and Tony to kind of identify the ones, and then some of the other ones are, to help us a little bit with some of the requirements in the application, as far as like how our numbers look for fatality rate and relative, all of that, our qualified census tracts. So we have, I forgot to mention this, we have the North Central Indiana Regional Planning Council helping us with this grant free of charge. That's something that they do for us, and so they're involved in the process. We sent him an email asking him if they might be able to help out, and felt like by the time he emailed us back saying yes, he'd had a half of the stuff written, and we were ready to go. So they're really on the ball, and pending approval tonight, we're going to be ready to submit the application shortly. Absolutely. Yep, we have just about everything lined up. We're working on some more letters of support and things like that just to bolster the application, but we have the basic things that we need already.
Have any questions for Jacob?
So what exactly do we get with that grant if we would get it? Would it fix the areas or?
No, so what it would do is, so it kind of lays it out in the budget that you were sent to on those items that they have funded. So part of it would be to analyze our chosen either corridors or intersections or however we kind of spell it out with our consultants at the time that we end up doing it. But it'll identify areas that maybe should be more of a priority for us to alter or fix or change things, and then would give us some recommendations and help us prioritize these projects for the long term, so that the goal of the program from the federal level is 0 traffic fatalities. And so that's what the safety action plan is supposed to get to, is that 0 traffic fatalities is essentially our goal, and how we get there is through these identified things throughout town.
So like potentially adding like lights and things, or?
That could be a recommendation that could come out of it. There could be a recommendation for, roundabouts, blocking off certain streets, different ways that we could do, pedestrian crossings or things of that nature. So it'll run the full gamut of, what the possibilities are engineering-wise. And it'll only get to it on kind of a base level, but in some of those instances, that'll be enough for us to go forward and make some projects happen and at least plan budget-wise over the next 5 to 10 years for the city to, kind of have those on their list to fund and look for opportunities. And then those things that are high priority and mentioned in our safety action plan, when it comes down to it, are things that we'll be able to then go for implementation funding and get, our priority projects done, hopefully for 20% of the cost if we're able to be awarded those things.
So if you apply by the deadline of May 16th, and then the next deadline is going to be August 29th, you're confident that they're going to get back with you if your application is faulty and it needs to be upgraded, then you're going to be able to do that by the August 29th date?
Yes, I'm not ever confident about anything when it comes to the federal government. But I would say that because they make that allowance for submitting in earlier rounds and then resubmitting before the final round, I can't imagine that they wouldn't get back to us before the next round opens. If that happens, then you know, our application's already going to be in, so it'll just, we'll be able to kind of have it roll over. But I would imagine because they have the program set up that way, it'll do it, but I'll never guarantee anything.
But no matter which application date we would meet and maybe get granted money, you're still only asking for the match money of $48,000, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that would be if awarded. So if we don't get awarded in either of the rounds, we'll never spend the $48,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is there seems like we do these master plans and whatnot, is there a shelf life for something like this?
It's not spelled out.
You know what
Yeah, it's kind of a new program. I would say that the identifications of the intersections and, you know, possible fixes and how we prioritize those things, I don't think that will ever not be useful for the city. As far as how long it's useful, my guess would be as long as the program has the implementation funding going. So as long as we have this safety action plan, if we want to in the future, and this program is still going, we could go for supplemental. So they have some of them that are supplemental funding, that if you had an existing plan and maybe it was old, you could go in and get some more funding to update it. But my guess would be that it would be good for the life of the funding program at the very least. I can't guarantee anything else beyond that. Who knows? Elections happen and somebody decides they don't want it to
That
happen
makes
anymore.
sense.
Yeah.
Council, any other questions for Jacob? Anyone out there have anything they want to add from the public? Okay. Everyone in favor of moving this to the council meeting? All right. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob.
Okay, it is 6:12. I'll close the finance committee meeting.
Okay, it's 6:12, open to public safety meeting. Today I have Rocky Buff from Cass County EMA and Assistant Fire Chief Jason Miller. They're here to discuss the Cass County multi-hazard mitigation plan for 2024. Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. This is something that the county is supposed to do every 5 years. So multi-hazard mitigation plans, they came out kind of after Katrina. The government funded a lot of super disasters that nearly bankrupted it. So they decided to put greater emphasis on mitigation, things we can do before the disaster. So having a multi-mitigation plan, you know, the benefits, you're eligible for some extra pots of money to take care of like flooding areas and natural disasters. I think the biggest con to not having one is federal assistance. So if Logansport did have some kind of catastrophic disaster that damaged like City Hall, fire stations, the line of public assistance that takes care of those types of issues, you're not eligible for if you don't have a current mitigation plan in place. So it's kind of like driving without insurance, not having one. So Cass County was able to get a grant. It's about $20,000. We took care of the $6,000 local match, so we're not asking you for anything on that. All we need from the city is an adoption resolution saying that you would like to adopt the plan that we've already put together, and then you can get the benefits of the work that's already been done. So this was a months-long process. We had several public meetings held out at Ivy Tech. I know Rob came from the building commissioner. Chief Bear came to a couple of them. Pretty well attended, 20-plus people at each meeting. We had opportunity to provide input through our social media pages. It was on the radio, did lots of press work. And that's kind of where we are. So I believe it's been distributed electronically is what I heard.
We haven't seen it. We don't know what you're talking about.
I apologize for that.
Have you seen it, BJ?
I think it's 160 pages.
Yeah, we sent it to the mayor's office, and Chief Bear was also supposed to help get it out there.
And have you seen anything of it, Jason?
I've just seen bits and pieces of it. It's a 160-page document.
So if it hasn't been to you at this point, we could certainly get it out. And I might understand if you need to come back to it at a later date if you haven't seen it. Wouldn't expect you to review that much content here now. I just, my biggest concerns for the city and all the towns and everything, like I wouldn't want somebody to miss out on a lot of federal assistance on a bad day because of one thing that wasn't in place.
Is there one that was currently in place?
What?
Has there been a plan in place and you're updating it,
There,
or?
so it should be done every 5 years. The last one was, longer than 5 years, so at this time, there is not one in place for the city of Logansport. Cass County's adopted it, the school boards have all adopted it, most of the towns. There's Royal Centers voting on it tonight, but at this moment, there is not a mitigation plan in place for the city of Logansport. Yeah, that's
Did the
all.
chief talk to you about this?
He just said that without it, we wouldn't get federal funding. That's about the only thing he said. In the event of a disaster.
So
It
that,
doesn't cost us anything.
Cass County's already, we got a grant, we took care of the federal match, so, the money part's taken care of. All we need from Logansport to benefit is just a resolution adopting the plan that's already been adopted by the county, and it's already been approved by FEMA. FEMA's already approved it, so as soon as we get a resolution from the city of Logansport, we send it to FEMA within a couple of days. City of Logansport's covered.
I'm sure it's fine, but I mean, I'd still at least like to skim through it or something first before I voted on something.
Well, can we just move to have it, does it work to can we just move and have it be set for approval at the next council meeting and not tonight's meeting? Or is that, you don't want to wait another month? Is that your purpose of being here tonight?
I was just asked to come present it, so if you need to table it, like I understand that, I wouldn't ask any board to approve a 160-page document without doing it. I know I'm not available next Monday. I've got teaching obligations.
No, I said next month.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to come back in person, but I could certainly answer any questions you have through email or phone call between now and then.
Okay, so who do we rely on to get us the document that we haven't seen?
I sent it to the mayor's office. If there's a better place, just let me know who to forward it to make sure it gets around, and I can email that over.
You forward it to me, I can forward it to the council.
You want to give me your email before you leave? I
Sure.
don't know if you want it on the record or.
Although you can put it's out there for the public anyway. It's just Dave Moore, City Council @gmail.com.
Okay, I'll forward that to Mr. Morris, and you'll get it to the rest of the
I'll
council.
just forward it on, yep.
Okay, I'll get that to you tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? That's it?
That's all I got.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
6:18, public safety meeting.
Today, eat. That's all right, that's not big deal. I was gonna say, do they have cliff notes? That's what I'm looking for. I don't even know what a mitigation plan is, but I'll figure it out. They should be embarrassed.
He didn't say he sent it to you, he said he sent it to the mayor's office.
Yeah, but here's, I got this from Mindy. Resolution.
Yeah, that's just the resolution, though, it doesn't say the actual, it talks about the plan, but doesn't have the actual plan in it.
Yeah, I know it's like 100.
I can't go near there. I'm getting mad about the streets. Almost, you know, those years. How long is it gonna take him to get back to it? Okay, but patching doesn't, patching is not replacing that. Yeah. Where you started. There's contracts that when you restore those contracts to the same. I can get them. Condition that they were before they started. That's what those contracts say. And there is no way. So I don't know what the solution is, but I'm telling you, people are gonna fire up.
It was, yeah, I got
You too.
it is last Tuesday of the month.
At what time?
Oh, God.
I was gonna say, I can't be there. I wanna go. We got too many people. Well, it's great to say. This is your idea.
Of course, I live on the west side, so they have started patching over there. Some of the gravel spots, and I know what gravel.
I know, but it's still not restoring your street to the way it was originally. That is not, that's what's not happening. And if I were sitting in a meeting with Greg Toth, I would say, this contract says, they're restoring, both of the contracts say, the one that we're doing that we're replacing the lead pipes, and the one, the contract
For the mains.
for the mains, it doesn't matter. So to me, when you're doing that main, you can pay the whole street when you're done, dude. That is nothing but a mess.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, so if I were in a meeting with Greg Toth, I'd be calling about, so you like to skip a meeting, and let me sit in on it.
If you ever want to do, I'll set it up.
I have
I'll set
nothing.
up my wife. She's all over.
Oh, my goodness.
Break this a little bit.
Oh, let me check, Rocky.
You know what? They think that we're gonna talk about their.
Sorry.
All these guys think it's pension is gonna be-
Hey, mitigation, yeah, there we go. All right, forward that on for you. My apologies. I will, and I'll also let you know. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate all the good work you're doing for us.
I know. That's your gig, dude. Well, no, it's not your gig. They all have. And I told Marilyn, hey, what's
It's usually, yeah.
All for fun.
So I lifted her. She told me about that. When I got my word packet, but it's not anything I'm talking about. And then when I got my word packet, which this is, and I haven't been since I started the job. I don't know what's wrong. But anyway, when I got it, I just texted her and I said, hey, no. I said, it's not mentioned. I said, you should take it. But they, so here we are. $48,000 annually for being able to improve crossings and streets and anything for safety. I don't mind $8,000 on that. Yeah. I mean, even if it's, even if it's just designed to get, get ideas and all that. It's except the one on 18th Street, where that new gas station's at. What is that? I think that is the city limits. I think that is. I know the city limits comes out to the road where the stoplight is. I know the city limits. But I don't care if it's city or county. There's, I don't think I can travel.
Yeah.
Especially when those trucks are busy, coming in and out of there.
He's a good guy. Yeah, he likes to talk.
I'm just disappointed I read that. You watch the 4 works meetings. But you don't print that out, do you? Yeah. So, I'm not kidding. This had 12 minutes, 15 minutes of approved. Then almost $500,000 of claims involved. I was like, they don't even talk about it. They type in this lady, Firefox kid, brought in 2 invoices from 2023 from Melbourne Review. That was all grant money, that money's all been, it's all been cleared out, is what they said. And so they, you just come walking in with thousands of dollars claims, and they just pay, and I'm like, wait. He's saying, where were these? And if I didn't get the money out of the grant packet, I wouldn't pay it. The patient, gotta get out of here.
He comes over quite a
It
bit.
just jinxed us, didn't it?
Burgundy Dodge Ram. I didn't think there was anything about the fire road table.
There's not anything, they think that they're, they think insurance, amount of money that something, the insurance increase in rates for the entire. They think that's all. No, it did not. It didn't come up. I gotta find this one.
Okay.
I was here.
Okay, BJ called me.
But it's on the agenda. It's on the agenda. I told him. Now they should. How much did you pay? Well, she said, it might help me. You think the resources are down? Yeah. What's your name? McClure.
There's a better ways to approach it. It isn't the first time we've been around for a while. Carl would want you to know, Mayor, that it is 6:30.
Oh, is it?
Thank you, Kelly.
That's all you have to say. Good evening. It is 6:30 p.m. Monday, May 6, 2024. I'm Mayor Chris Martin calling to order the regular session of the Logansport Common Council. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
BJ Cox.
Present.
Chris Howard.
Present.
Cameron Austin.
Present.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Present.
Scott Beatty. Present. Susie Wamsley.
Present.
Dave Morris.
Present.
We'll start with the approval of minutes for the regular session, April 1st, 2024.
I'll make a motion we approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question?
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Scott Beatty.
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes.
We have your reports from committees, boards, and commissions.
Yes, we had a Finance Committee meeting on April the 22nd. We had several topics of discussion: funding requests for Cass Area Transit, changes in the internship reimbursement program, the rainy day fund, infrastructure fund transfer for demolition of a house, non-reverting health insurance fund, roof replacements for the mausoleum, partnership with the schools for pickleball courts to be painted on the tennis courts at the high school, and a trail planning grant, which we ended up tabling. So most of those are on tonight's agenda. And then again, we met tonight at 6 o'clock to discuss the Safe Streets and Roads grant application.
We had a public safety meeting tonight to discuss the Cass County Hazardous Materials Mitigation Fund, which seems no one really got the whole package what we're going to go over. So it's going to be resent to everybody, and then we'll look at it again and hopefully pass it the next time around.
Any other reports from committees, boards, and commissions? All right, moving on to old business, ordinance 2024-06, Councilman Cox.
Ordinance 2024-06, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, amending the Logansport Fringe Zoning Ordinance for the structure standards. This is the second reading. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on ordinance 2024-06.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question?
BJ Cox.
No.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Yes.
Scott Beatty.
No.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-06 passes on its second reading. Ordinance 2024-10, Councilwoman Zinsmaster.
Ordinance 2024-10, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, amending the fee schedule established in Ordinance 2020-30 and 2012-30 by adding new charges for copying law enforcement recordings. And I would ask for a vote on Ordinance 2024-10 on its second reading.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call for question?
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Scott Beatty.
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-10 passes on its second reading. On to new business, ordinance 2024-11, Councilman Austin.
Ordinance 2024-11, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, amending Ordinance 22-55, appropriating county economic development income tax, CEDAT revenue to subsidize summer internships and cooperative programs. Mr. Mayor, I move this forward for a vote.
Second.
Any further discussion? Bill is here.
I'd make a motion to suspend the rules and pass this on first reading.
Dave, you have to say just for which ordinance are you talking about?
Oh, that's correct. Ordinance 2024-11, the internship ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules on ordinance 2024-11. Any further discussion? Call for question.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes?
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Scott Peedy,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
All right, call for question on voting on ordinance 2024-11.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Scott Peedy,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-11 passes with the suspension of rules. Resolution 2024-114, Councilman Morris.
Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, to financially assist the Cass County Council on Aging, Cass Transit for fiscal year 2024. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Now I'd like to make a motion to table this for further study, please.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilman Peedy and a second from Councilman Cox to suspend the rules. Or to table, sorry, to table it. I'm like, what? All right, call for question on tabling resolution 2024-114.
Could we get some discussion? from
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
before we-
for sure, yeah,
Before we decide on this? What's your reasoning here, Scott?
The figures on what they said are according to Tyler. Would you want to explain that on the figures that you saw?
Yeah, I don't get to vote on this, but I was a little concerned with still how far off they would be, even with the 75,000 that we would be giving them,
Far off in what sense?
for how far they needed to break even for the year. And there was a lot of ifs and optimism on what could happen, but not a lot of guarantees.
You want to bring Mike up?
Mike, would you like to speak on this?
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this issue. To summarize the big picture in terms of the dollar situation for Cass Area Transit, which is the only program for Council on Aging. Our original budget was $2.1 million. We've cut $500,000 roughly from that to about $1.6 million per our consultants. We have consultants come in, we're going to adopt all of their recommendations. Of the $1.6 million, if we get the 50% reimbursement, which is from the federal funds administered through the INDOT, that covers $800,000. We would get $400,000 from the state. That means we have local source funding of about $400,000 we need to come up with. I just today personally delivered to Cass Area Transit a check in the amount of $100,000 from the county. And then in addition to that, of course, the county had provided some money earlier, roughly $112,000 from the county for this current year. If the requests are approved here, we would have a total of $115,000 from the city. That would give us a total of roughly $225,000, $230,000 from local government. We do need to raise another $170,000, that is correct. Now, some of that will come from our Medicaid reimbursement. We hope to grow that program with the advice of our consultants. We have $20,000, I should also mention, from the Area 5 for $20,000 for providing transportation for seniors free of charge. So that's also in part of that amount that goes towards the $400,000 we need to reach from local source funding. I will say something a little more able to maybe talk about this now. One of the key recommendations from our consultants was to reduce the size of our facility. When I mentioned this to one of my fellow commissioners, he said, well, that's interesting because the EMS service that I kind of look over needs larger and a larger facility. So we have actually developed exploration where they would purchase, and we have appraisers coming in this week, they would purchase our facility, which is owned entirely by Council on Aging, so that would give us some immediate source of funds, and then we, in turn, would move into their smaller facility, and, as the consultants pointed out, this would give us the fair market value of the rent that the county would provide, if in fact the county would provide free, which I think I can arrange, would count towards that local source funding of $400,000 that we need to raise. So yes, I am optimistic, but I think I'm realistically optimistic in terms of being able to get our budget in order for this year. If we can indeed do the exchange of facilities. And the EMS is very much interested in this. In fact, they started measuring and figuring out who's going to move into which office. So I think they are very much would want to do this. We are getting appraisals, and presumably the sale would be at more or less the appraised value of the property. I'm not sure what that appraisal will come at, and we might have to negotiate some with EMS. Their funds are, non-reverting funds are not unlimited, but I think they've got a substantial amount that they could pay us for that facility. So I'm hoping that this is a recommendation from our consultants to reduce the size of our facility. That lowers the cost of that part of our budget, because we'd have a smaller facility. Also, we are hoping to dispose of our buses, not that we would get very much money, if anything, from that, but simply disposing of our buses would lower our insurance costs. We're taking every possible step to reduce our budget so we can get in line with this. So that's the short-term solution. A longer-term solution is maybe some sort, or intermediate-term solution is some sort of merger with another entity to give us greater financial strength. And then ultimately, I think where the INDOT is going, the state of Indiana wants a regional approach to transportation. So I think 4, 5, 6 years down the road, there may be a totally different situation in line. But for this year, I'm trying to get through this year with a balanced budget. I think we have every reason to think that we can do that. I'd be glad to answer any. Oh, one other thing I will point out is that I just received in the last day or two the final report from our consultants, and they gave us a final figure for what it cost to operate the city bus line. Now, as you may know, there were 2 buses originally, or at one point for the city bus line, reduced back down to 1 bus. But they estimate the cost of that service, just for the city bus, which has about 9,000 riders last year, that cost is just slightly less than $100,000 per year. Now, what the city has given the Council on Aging in the past, it's $40,000 per year, every year except I think 2001, it was temporarily reduced to $30,000. But pretty much that $40,000 figure has been in place for a very, very long time, has not been adjusted. But yet, in fact, our cost currently now is estimated to be just right under $100,000 per year. So what I'm asking for, the $75,000, would be a total of $115,000 a year. I think I have good reason to believe that we can get through this year intact, and that next year, if we have a greatly reduced requirement, and ultimately be in a situation, if we have a merger with some other entity, that we could really reduce our requirement from local government. Any questions on that?
City bus, is that free?
That's free, totally free.
92,000 riders per year?
9,000.
9,000.
9,000 for the city bus. Now, the total ridership is 96,000 for the other main part of our service. The total ridership of 105,000, that was for 2023.
Okay.
Total ridership. But just the city portion, 9,000, cost about $100,000 per year according to calculations of the consultants.
Is there any way that you can make the city bus route more effective instead of going this way and that way, or anything, like just going one way north and south and then one route east and west?
Our consultants, of course, are looking at that sort of thing. They do want us to maximize the efficiency of our routes, which is one reason why we've been able to reduce our cost, because we're requiring fewer miles and fewer drivers to basically maintain the same ridership. I'd certainly be open to any sort of requests we have to change, to make the routes more efficient or more attractive to the city. Sure, we would be open to that, but we have to be efficient in our operations. We want to maintain our level of service. We're not really in a position to expand our level of service right now, but we do want to maintain our level of service. We really have to do that. One thing I should point out is that this is a public service, so we cannot discriminate among the users. We have to basically provide transportation to anyone who wants it, no matter how meritorious or frivolous their request might be. I think for the most part, most of these people really need this service.
How many Medicare, Medicaid patients are you transporting and getting reimbursed, and how much do they pay?
Well, I do remember this one figure off the top of my head. It was last year we got about $56,000 in Medicaid reimbursement funds. We have 2 drivers that principally do this, and this is basically non-emergency medical transportation. So if we have say a senior citizen who has an appointment in Indianapolis or Lafayette or Fort Wayne or wherever, basically we take them there. Last year we got $56,000. Back in 2019 we had over $300,000 of Medicaid reimbursement. That number got kind of trended down, and then it really fell off a cliff in 2023. Our consultants are optimistic that we can rebuild that back, but it's going to take time. But certainly we need, that money counts as local source funding, that $400,000 that we need. In addition to the city and the county, we need other funds to get us up to $400,000, and that's going to be a big part of the solution. But it's going to take a little time to get that number back up.
I found in the past that a lot of people didn't have any awareness that that was a service that they could get to do that. I don't know how you...
Well, the way that works actually is they do not, unlike, say, normal transportation with our local routes or whatever, where they can call in and request the service. This one, it has to go through what's called brokers. And there are various companies out there that the Medicaid request goes through the broker to a transit service or some other service provider, of whom we are but one. We actually are kind of competing with other service providers out there. And we need to try and get more of that business. But it's not something we can market directly. We get these transactions through a broker rather than directly with a patient.
So a Medicare patient just can't call up and say, hey, I got an appointment in next week?
Yeah, they have to go through, now if they have an appointment here in town, absolutely you can do that. But these other requests for out of town go through what's called a broker. Southeast Transportation, I think was the name of the principal broker we worked with. We used to work with a lot of the brokers, and right now that's our main one. So somehow Medicaid gets the request, puts it through a broker, say Southeast Trans, and then they would contact us and say, hey, can you take this patient to Indy or wherever they're going? That's how it works. But we need to develop these relations, increase the relationship with these brokers to build back up our revenue from that source.
For the local doctors, even, to know from their staffs to say, hey, Mary, you've got an appointment next week. Here's the number you called it.
Yeah. If it's a local, if it's here, yeah, then absolutely, they can call Cass Area Transit and we can, arrange for that. That happens all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And my mother-in-law used to take advantage of that service, for example.
Can you start charging for the city bus?
Well, we have no plans to, and here's the interesting thing our consultants pointed out, is increasing our fares is really not a good solution. It doesn't really increase our revenue, and because it does not count towards the local source funding, and it would probably reduce our ridership, which actually would probably impact our state funding. So they basically said, do not increase your fares. We charge $2 per ride in the city, $3 in the county, and they said, keep those fares where they are. Do not increase your fares. So we are basically committed to implementing our consultants' recommendations. We think they're very good recommendations. They believe we will have a balanced budget this year. These consultants have advised a lot of transit companies. I think they know what they're doing. They work very closely with NDOT, and we think that by following their recommendations, we will be on a good path forward.
Scott, do you or Tyler have any relevant suggestions that,
One of them was the city bus being a fare like $1, but if that's going to impact your other funding, that would.
Well, he already explained this
Yeah,
to us.
I have
when
that in
he
my
was-
notes from last time.
He already explained this to us when he was here last time. We've already heard all those.
Just that Tyler didn't feel comfortable with the figures that are on the board now.
After hearing your plan as far as, before you could share with us what the plan was that building.
Yes.
But now after hearing it, it makes more sense, because I know that the building they're in currently is really small, and I'm sure they would definitely benefit from switching buildings with you guys.
Absolutely. It's clear that, and I've talked with the EMS director, and he is very excited about this facility. And it's way more than we need, but it's just perfect for them. So I think this is truly a win-win. Basically, Commissioner Dietrich and I, one morning, this hit us, and I think it's going to help EMS, and it's going to help Cass Area Transit.
Do we need further review then?
No, I'm pretty confident they'll be able to get that amount for that building easy, so.
I will withdraw my motion then. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Second. I'll withdraw mine.
Table has been withdrawn. We have a motion and a second to vote on resolution 2024-114. Any further discussion? Call for question.
Scott Beatty,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-114 passes. Resolution 2024-115, Councilman Howard.
Resolution 2024-115, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, authorizing the transfer of unused or unencumbered funds from the general fund to the rainy day fund in accordance with Indiana Code 36-1-8-5.1. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on Resolution 2024-115.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Scott Beatty,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-115 passes. Now, remind me, President Morris, Resolution 2024-116, did it move forward to tonight's council meeting or not? Okay. Resolution 2024-117, Councilman Petey.
Resolution 2024-117, the resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, transferring appropriations from the non-reverting infrastructure fund for the building commissioner. Mr. Mayor, I ask that we have a vote on Resolution 2024-117, please.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-117 passes. Resolution 2024-118, Councilwoman Zinsmaster.
Resolution 2024-118, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, appropriating funds for the cemetery. And I would ask Resolution 2024-118 go for a vote.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-118 passes. Resolution 2024-119, Councilwoman Wamsley.
Resolution 2024-119, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, transferring appropriations for the Parks Department. I move for a vote on Resolution 2024-119.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call
I
for
have-
question. Oh, go ahead.
Is Jan here? This is just money you want to use to transfer so you can pay pickleball court lines. Is there any possible way we can get the courts at Spencer Park and Fairview Park fixed first before we give the school corporation money?
First of all, the Spencer Park Court is not worth doing anything to. It's really in bad shape. It doesn't, it won't hold the paint. It's got a lot of cracks and things like that on it. And we're not going to redo it because that's right in the middle of our Christmas in the Park light show. And I can't take that one, I can't add to that because it would require trees to come down. So I'm not going to do that at Spencer Park. At Fairview Park, is that what you said, Fairview or Tower?
Fairview, there's a pad next to the basketball court.
Right, and so we can do some lines there, but that's only one court.
Oh, yeah, they have to have two, right?
Pardon me?
They said they had to have two?
Well, that's what the pickleball folks expect, at least two in whatever location you have, so.
One's better than
Because
nothing.
we were going to tear out the one there at Spencer at one time, and the pickleball folks said, no, we have to have two. And so, anyway, here's the other thing about this is that this is 10 courts that they're going to do. They're going to make this available to us to do instruction and leagues and tournaments whenever there isn't any other tennis going on at the time. They're going to be able to use those pickleball lines as well for their school programming. And so we're going to have access to those whenever tennis is not going on. And I think that's a big thing. That also takes that off of our capital improvements plan for the next 5 years, honestly, because we've been talking about having to put together a new pickleball court complex with at least 4 more courts, maybe 6, which is going to be $500,000. This is a really small investment, $7,200, that's going to take care of some stuff for a while. And, we share facilities with the schools all the time. And this is a great thing for all of us to do. Honestly, it is.
I was going to ask you, what was the cost of the 2 pickleball courts we put in at Riverside?
Well, I never was able to break that down per, how that, because there's so much of the whole construction that went on. But I would say that's at least 150,000 of that 750 that we paid for that whole system. So, and maybe more than that. But we're trying really hard to accommodate lots of people in different places. We are doing Bishop Park courts this year. I'm adding futsal lines to that one so that can accommodate the folks that want futsal. And so that's where we're at with stuff. I haven't really, I'm not ready to do, I don't think we are ready to do a full complex for pickleball folks. And this helps us a great deal. And we are working on a nice MOU that works with the school corporation and us. And like I said, we work with the school corporation all the time to get things done or accommodate activities for kids and families. So I don't see anything wrong with doing this at this point, so.
And it's money that's already in our budget, she's just transferring it from
I
one
understand
line
that, but
to the other.
they're always saying they need 2 for everything, but there's one over at Fairview and it's got being used for nothing. So is it possible to repave that?
Well, the basketball court is, and honestly, the second court I want that to be a parking lot, and I've been trying to get lines drawn on that with the street department, and we'll get it done. We'll get it done, but it's a parking lot for handicap access to the playground is what my goal is for that.
All right.
Any further discussion on Resolution 2024-119? Motion and a second. Call for question.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yeah.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-119 passes. Resolution 2024-120, Councilman Howard.
Resolution 2024-120, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, transferring excess funds from the non-reverting Logansport Health Fund as outlined in Ordinance 2019-35. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on Resolution 2024-120.
Second.
Any further discussion? Anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment?
Good evening. I'm Jason Miller. I'm currently the president of Local 470, the Professional Firefighters Union. I spoke with Mr. Morris last Finance Committee meeting, and you explained to me and Councilman Cox that the funds in this non-reverting health insurance fund, how are those, where does that money come from again?
Those are basically overpayments, like we have a stop-loss carrier. Initially, I believe we pay those fees, and then we're reimbursed if they go over the 100. If a payment goes over the 100,000, then they pay us back for the balance above that number.
Okay.
It's for a variety of things. I honestly can't tell you each one specifically.
Is there anything in that ordinance that states what that money has to be used for?
Basically, in the past, we had only used it for our consulting fees, but now those are built into the premiums.
Okay. So we understand that insurance is very costly for the city. It's costly for us. This year, our premiums were increased 1.5% again. We were told next year that they're going to be increased again to get us to the 20%, I think.
That's determined at the time.
Right. And
We've pushed that 20% thing for
it's been pushed back, I know. Also, it did go up 1.5 this year. We've also been told about the retirees' insurance going away. When we're hired onto the job, that is one of the benefits that we know we have. And we've got guys that retire knowing that they're going to have this benefit. I got a guy that retired in February knowing that he's going to have insurance, and now it's being jerked out from under. It's being talked about being jerked out from
No,
under.
here, let me say one thing right away.
Okay.
There has been discussion about how we're going to deal with retirees in the future.
Right.
But we have never discussed taking something away from someone that's retired. I would never do
Right.
that. I can't speak for everyone, but that's never been a topic of discussion.
I guess my main question is, can that money the resolution that you're moving $1.13 million, can that money be used for insurance?
It could possibly be used for that. I mean,
If
there's
it's-
no, the restriction was when we put it in there that it would go into the general. We talked after that meeting, and at the time, you seemed pleased with the idea
Well-
that we were directing money towards your next
Right.
big.
Our next fire truck, right, yeah, absolutely. And that's a great thing. That is a great thing. But you also,
Let me interject. A couple of days later, that's when they were told that their insurance will be, for the retirees, jacked up, so that's why they're all here tonight.
Well, and like I told BJ, I wish you would come and possibly talk privately with a group rather
Sure.
than publicly, but this seems to always be the venue
Right.
that we choose. No decisions have been made,
okay.
and I appreciate.
I guess my main question is can funds from this this fund, can it be used to help fund insurance premium?
It
That-
probably-
That's my question.
It could possibly be, yes,
Okay.
yes. You know, we're looking at, you know, we look at the whole budget and we try to distribute the overpayments in a fashion that would benefit numerous things.
Sure.
We have some outstanding issues, so we put money in the rainy day. We put part of that money back into the general fund.
And I understand that, but like I said, I got a guy that just retired.
He's not going to lose his insurance, no, I can tell you that.
But is it gonna be to the point where it's not affordable? Is his entire pension gonna be going to fund his insurance?
Here's what I can tell you. Here's what we know right now. The mayor has chosen to go in a different direction with our broker. So all we've done at this point is sit down with our new broker. Jacob's been in those conversations. I've been in them. Lauren in HR's been in them. People from the clerk's office, Tyler. And all we're trying to do at this point is, what's our biggest statement to them been? How do we make this more affordable for our employees?
Right.
And it's not a matter of, you know, BJ was telling me some numbers you've been told. I don't know where anybody would get those numbers. There are no numbers to throw around.
And I understand that healthcare is ridiculous. I do. I've got a daughter that we spend a lot of money every year on her healthcare. I get it. But it just, you know, here's $1.1 million that, you know, I understand, and absolutely, we would love a new fire engine.
Right.
But, you know, when,
And you have to understand, here's what we, you know, if we put money in that direction, it would only be a stopgap for a year probably.
Yeah.
And then you'd be right back fighting the same uphill battle.
Yeah.
I mean,
what does that fund have in it? How much total? This is 50% of the fund, right? The 1.1?
a little less than 50% of it,
Okay.
yeah.
So is that something that's a reoccurring fund, or is it built to
has a
this over
maximum.
years and years and years?
It has a maximum amount for when those catastrophic years come along. It's like a safety net for the insurance in general, because we're self-insured.
Okay.
And when it gets too high, then we take the money and bring it back down to where it belongs. And it hadn't been done in numerous years, and that's why it looks so much bigger than it would. We're supposed to do it any year it goes over the maximum. At the end of the year, shift that money back into the
That
general.
has it. Okay. All right. That's my question.
And like I said, we're looking at insurance, but if you want Jacob to come in here, he's going to tell you the same thing. We haven't been talking about raising anybody's premium $1,600 a month or whatever BJ was. I don't know where that stuff comes from, and I'm sorry you guys hear it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, like I said, I got a guy that just retired and his entire pension's kind of, what he's hearing is going to fund his
Right.
premiums, and that's kind of hard to live on, so. Especially when he just retired 3 months ago. So, kind of frustrating. That's all I got.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Motion and second on resolution 2024-120. Any further discussion? Call for question.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Suzie Wamsley,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-120 passes. Resolution 2024-121, Councilman Morris.
That's the add-on one. Hang on.
It's this one, right?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot, I'm looking at the one before it was added. I had all my notes in it. Sorry about that. Resolution 2024-121. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, authorizing local match commitment for safe streets and roads for all planning and demonstration grant. Move this forward for a vote.
I'll second.
Is that, you guys have the one with the right numbers and all of that?
We do.
I want to make sure it's right.
Yeah. 192 and
Yes.
48.
And then, I don't know if it's added, but there's a section to say where the funding would be coming from, and so I.
With the asterisks,
Yes,
yeah,
okay.
yep.
All right, any further discussion? Call for question.
Did we get a second?
Oh, did we? Yeah. Who seconded?
Yeah, I seconded.
Austin?
Austin did.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes,
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-121 passes. Any public comments? Anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for us, please.
Paul Wilhelm, 630 South 15th Street. In 2016, I first came before this council with our Logansport Landmarks Most Endangered list. I sent you all that list today via email. I don't know if you all got it. Basically, on May 19th, we'll be having our annual preservation conference over at 630 South 15th Street. We're going to be talking about a couple different things. Some of the issues that are concerning to the preservation community. All the properties that are currently on our list have been on, basically are vacant properties, with the exception of one, and we're not sure about that one. Some of these properties have been vacant for 10, 15 years. And we're going to be looking at solutions about how we can make tweaks to our ordinances. We've added a lot of ordinances in the last 8 years. We've made changes to our zoning and planning. We've made changes to, for example, our code enforcement. We have vacant property registration. But with all those changes, we're not seeing that translate down to enforcement on these properties. So we're looking at solutions on that. There's also some corrections that need to be made to the Historic Preservation Commission, which will help them. When they originally wrote the ordinance, they didn't think about some things. One of which, and Aaron and I went through a lot of that stuff back then, one of the things we didn't consider is someone would pull a COA and then never do any work. Or they would stop work after, a year, the permits would expire, and the Historic Preservation Commission has no enforcement authority. They can't refer it back to the building commissioner, for example. It's all dependent on the fact, okay, it's got a expired building permit, but the COA is open indefinitely. So there's some corrections that need to be made in the Historic Preservation Commission to give them a little more ability to follow up and monitor on these properties that they administer, the locally designated properties. We made the decision this year to not add any properties. In fact, we took one property off the list, that being the Lower Spencer Park Pavilion. Kudos to the Parks Department for listening to the community. Everyone had a very great deal of attachment to that property, and the board recognized that, and also thanks to the council who found the money to do the stabilization. I know I've sat through some of those meetings and trying to find money to do things, and fortunately, the building is now going to be in a position that it's no longer endangered. Long-term, obviously, the building's going to need additional restoration down the road, and one of the things we hope to be able to do is find some grant and funding sources for that to happen, so wouldn't be dependent necessarily on city money for that. But there are some changes that need to be made to the way that we enforce our ordinances, particularly on condemned properties. We have one property on this list that's been condemned for 8 years. We're not taking that person who bought that property a year and a half ago before the Board of Works, and we should. It's kind of a difficult situation when you have somebody who's elderly, and we're on them about their peeling paint, and they drive by the Elks Lodge, and it's got broke windows on it, birds are flying in and out. And we basically paid for that building because we gave the developer the money that he turned around and spent on it. So we need to have some accountability on the way we spend our money and designate our money. And we need to, in terms of particularly properties that are condemned, we need to be sure that those property owners, when that property changes hands, that it goes straight before the Board of Works, and we get a plan from that new buyer about how they're going to fix that property. We shouldn't have a property sit for 6 years, and I know that
you originally had hoped that the city might acquire the Elks Lodge at one point. You got, someone came in and paid $100 for it, and they then turned around and sold it 6 years later for $40,000. It's a pretty good return on money, and that's one of the reasons why we have so many vacant properties in town right now, is there are a lot of people who are land banking. They're leaving the properties empty because our property values are rising so quickly that it's cheaper for them to just let it sit, do nothing, and watch the value go up every year, because we're not enforcing the ordinance that we have on the books. There's no expectation they're going to have to spend money. So we need to figure out how we get that level of enforcement back in there. And this even applies to rental properties. We have a lot of rental properties that could be rented. The property owners don't want to rent them. They say, why should I get $650 a month for a property that's $7,000 a year? End of the year, I've got to spend $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 fixing the property. Well, that property's going up 10 grand a year. Why should I even rent it? And there are a lot of properties in our neighborhoods that are sitting vacant precisely for that reason, because it's cheaper for them to do nothing, take no income from it, and just, hope for the money to come in, because we're not really enforcing these vacant properties. You've got too many vacant properties out there, and they're not on the registry. And we're hopeful that with our plan to put together a system of block clubs and neighborhood groups, that we can kind of conduit that information to city building inspection, because we know where the vacant houses are. I've got one down the street from me that's been vacant for 15 years. It's a Mayor Monahan house. It took us 4 years to get the tarp off of it. It's been vacant ever since the new roof was put on. It's just sitting there. Property owners just land banking it, waiting for the property values to go up. And there's just a lot of properties like that, and it's one of the things we haven't really addressed. And this conference is basically going to be looking at ways that we can address those issues and come up with strategies that will allow us to not have so many abandoned vacant properties in the city, and get those properties into the hands of people who will do good with them. The last year, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is now under restoration. That was a year ago when that gentleman from North Carolina bought it. You notice they've done all the tuck pointing, got rid of the big crack on that building. We just got some resolution on the Greensfelder house. They've been mired in a disagreement with the county health department now for 5 years, and we were able to lobby the state of Indiana Health Department, and they have now taken over administration of that lead-based paint issue. So the new owners are going to be meeting directly with the state inspector, not the local health inspector, and they look to be able to get their sign off so that property can move forward. So there's a little bright spot that we've had there, along with the fact that there's a lot more restoration going on in the community. But I hope that those of you who are free on the 19th can come to the meeting. It's going to be from noon to 1:30. We have the picnic later. After that, it's a great opportunity to meet the people who are restoring in your community and who are investing their own blood, sweat, and tears in the community. And a lot of the properties that they're renovating are properties that we all gave up on, and they've come in to save them. So I hope that you all can make it, and if you can, get with me the next couple of days, because we are almost full on the preservation conference side. We've only got room for like 30 people, and we're just about full on that. The picnic, we're going to have a lot more people at that, but we'll have classic cars, we'll have pitch and picnic, croquet, if anybody still knows how to play croquet. But I look forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. I know you've been there before, Dave. And it's just a great chance to meet people who are restoring in the community and see what's going on. And they can tell you one-on-one what problems they've come up against the community as far as getting their properties redone. But any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Any other public comments? All right. Council member comments.
I have one. Just about trash collection. It's just the delays have become very excessive. My trash day's Friday and it still hasn't been picked up, so it'll be sitting out for a minimum of 5 nights, and that's if it gets picked up tomorrow. So it's just an ongoing issue.
We have a meeting this week to discuss the trash situation. The contract council, you guys should be aware of this actually, that the contract is coming up for that trash service. So something to be thinking about is questions to be asking Republic when they come up and they submit to try to get a contract again, reminding them of these things. We are actually keeping a log. Mindy is keeping a log of every single complaint that we have received since we've had Republic. And that list is very long. So I get it, I understand it, but we're trying to find a solution within the contract at this point, because the council before and myself, we went with Republic because we had no other choice at that time. Waste management would have been, one, more expensive, and two, they wouldn't have been able to start until January. And Republic was the only other option at that point, otherwise we wouldn't have had trash service. So that's why we had to go with Republic at that time. But with the new council, now you guys can come in and kind of say, hey, wait a minute, let's look at other options. So that's something that I would appreciate if you guys could do. You know, maybe look at some other trash companies that might be able to actually compete with Republic, would be nice. But that's where we're at this point, is just trying to get them to understand that we're no longer going to take it. You know, so yeah, Deputy and I are working on that. And then, of course, we have some meetings with some council members as well. So,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
How do you expect us to know that that contract is coming due? I don't know anything about
That's
it.
why I just told you that. The contract's coming up
How am I
to,
supposed to know
so,
that? Are you going to inform me of that?
yeah, sure. I'll give you the old contract too. But what I'm saying is, within the next year, we have got to decide as a council and as a mayor's administration what we're going to do. At this point, I would say no to Republic. At this point, I think most of you would agree. But if there's no other options available, you know what I mean? What are we supposed to do? So I just,
Are you doing the research to other communities the size of ours that have trash pickup? Are you doing research about that so that you can come up with ideas that you can inform us about, that we can
Yep.
have other options?
so, yes.
And you can talk to them about a contract also? Okay.
So we had data that was similar to that back in 2020 when we actually did the contract before. So I'll reissue that, but with updated stats for you guys.
So this is a 4-year contract that's coming to an end? Okay.
Yep.
Ends in 25.
25 is when it is, yes.
When in 25 January?
Is it October?
October 25.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have time. You have a lot
Yeah,
of
exactly.
time.
Yeah, that's what. But I wanted you guys to be aware now, so that we all had time to do our due diligence, if you will. So.
Yeah, one of the
But I will get
issues-
that to you,
Well,
Susie,
I'd be
for sure.
interested in seeing all the complaints that you're talking about too. If you have a log, you could forward that to us so we could just
Absolutely.
see what the complaints are.
Absolutely. Got it. I'm writing it down.
I was just going to say, it sounds like it's a long time off, but what happened with the last contract was the bids weren't, or the RFP for bids wasn't put out soon enough. So consequently, the problem became anyone that wasn't Republic, couldn't get the totes. They would have to bring their own totes in, the others would have to be removed. Waste Management's bid was higher, and they couldn't start when the other contract was going to expire. So you really do need to have quite a long lead time on that. I would say 6 to 9 month minimum, wouldn't you, Jacob?
I prefer to have it ready by the end of this year.
But I mean, they need a lot of time, because if we switch, they've got to order these things and get them prepared, bring them in, distribute them. It's quite an ordeal to change, and I can't argue it that Republic has really dropped the ball on this contract.
Absolutely. Any other council member comments?
Yes, I had a nice phone call from a little old lady on the south side about all the yards that she's been seeing that the grass is about yay high, and she also complained about the house on 20 Cliff Drive, the old Porbo house. It has a semi, it has a motor home, it has a trailer, and all kind of trash laying all over the yard, and it's been this way for a long time, and she was just hoping that our code enforcement officer could do a better job and start cleaning the mess up. So it was a nice conversation.
Yes. I'm sure. Any other council member comments?
Just one. Next Finance Committee meeting will be on May the 20th. So departments, if you have things that need to go to Finance, we really need to have those probably by about the 17th of the month at the latest, so we can get the advertisement out, and that gives Tyler and the clerk's office time to get the packet put together before the next council meeting. I have 3 or 4 requests after this timeline, so I'm just kind of giving you a heads up that it's really kind of important that you get that stuff in by the deadline.
What? May 20th.
Any other council member comments?
Dave, is that at 6?
Oh, it's 6, yes.
Pardon?
Is that at 6?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30.
Yeah, I think there's a planning or BZA that day, so to be safe, we scheduled it for 6:30.
Okay.
Miscellaneous business and any matters not already considered, including ADA Section 504 compliance or concerns. Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Call for question.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Kaylee Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Scott Beatty,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
7:25 PM, we are adjourned. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
Yeah, Susie, I wrote all that stuff down, so I'll make sure you get that. Everybody. Absolutely. Might be our new trash service. Yeah. Let's see what we have. Let's see what we have a meeting.